I think in this first part, what struck me is that he appears to have gone straight in and provided solutions without really asking the operator what she's doing or why she's done it the way that she has. So for me, I would like the verifier to be going and understanding, you know, I mean, like he's probably making a good judgment about her level of knowledge, but he hasn't really tested it before deciding that something needs to change or understanding why they're doing it that way.
Yeah, I think like more open questions up front might have helped him to kind of get a state of play a bit clearer.
Right, so you use a clean every time. Have you thought of just using paper towels?
We also have them.
Because you don't need anything flash, just like a kitchen roller towel could be. That's all you need.
So he was just going through hand washing, and I thought it was really good the way he demonstrated what he was doing. But again, back to the point we were making before, maybe could have been more questions about what she was doing and why. Clearly she hadn't put her tea towel in the wash. Then he was still looking at it, and you could see that when he used his, he did actually take his through. So I thought it was interesting that he demonstrated it, but he didn't actually just ask about any of those things. But yeah, loads of really good demonstration in there.
Yeah, I don't know that I necessarily agree. I mean, like he clearly asked her to wash her hands, and he'd observed her doing that, and also he then said that he wanted to wash his hands, and in doing so would demonstrate how he does his. The fact that she handed him a clean tea towel, the fact that it was, you know, she didn't offer up the tea towel that she had used would suggest that you could use a little bit of judgment to not necessarily have to ask the question to positively confirm every single point. You know, observation is as much a valid part of the verification as asking the question.
Yeah, actually I agree with that, and I really liked his level of language. Like he talked about bugs, and he explained why it was important to be quite rigorous when you were washing your hands, which I thought was really good.
I think somebody was telling me you've got an infrared thermometer.
I really like this bit. I think he really demonstrates the structure really well. So he starts off with some questions and as to how it's done. And then because she's been really good about explaining how she does it and that she's doing it well, there's some real positive praise that he's using to explain you know, that she's doing a good job. And she's using quite you know, interesting methods of like recording information on the fridge, which is really good to see. It's not all about having to go to some written booklet where all that information will be contained.
Check that is between 3 and 4 or below that.
That's a great way of doing it.
And then he starts going through to why these things are important. So he's gone through the whole structure there, which I think is really good. And by doing that, he's still sounding really friendly and quite informal. It's still quite conversational. He's got really good open body language. There's good affirmations about what he's hearing. So I really like the interpersonal skills used in this section.
Yeah, my comment would probably be, you know, he is generally really, really good, but verifiers do need to be careful with the leading questions. So he asked her about did she take the record sheet off the fridge and put it into a folder. Now, somebody in an audit situation, they're already a little bit nervous, they're already a little bit anxious, and if you're leading with an expectation, sometimes they'll be tempted to say yes, and it's not true. She was good because she came back with, no, we take a picture and this is our record. And again, he was then quick to say, oh yes, that's good and that's great, you know, but it came from a leading question, so you do have to be a little bit careful sometimes.
Do you have any children that have got allergies at all here?
Yes,
What's
we have. This is the board when we give all.
So just talking about the allergies, it's really good to see the way that ECE is actually using the different space around the kitchen, and the fact that they've got the allergies really clearly labelled is really good the way they've done that. And he's really positive again with saying why these things are important, and it's good to see that they're doing it, which I think is really good.
Is that whilst you don't have any cashew nuts here,
Yes.
always check the products that come in, because it may contain traces of.
I think there's that issue again around the closed questions, and I was thinking about, why might he be doing that? I guess it can feel like it's more friendly to ask closed questions, and rather than just saying, tell me about this, or how do you do that? But it actually works okay with her because she, like you said before, she does explain things, but it could be very much, you could end up with just you doing all the talking and then not speaking, but it actually seems to work out okay in this instance.
Yeah, I think it will very much depend on the company, and probably you'll get away with it a little bit more in a smaller company, where actually people are perhaps not as familiar with verification or audit, but some of the big companies around, they're very good at spotting a closed question, and there is a bit of a saying around that you only give as much as what the auditor asks for. And so there are smart people out there that if you're asking a closed question or a leading question, you will just get yes and no answers, and you won't get the information that you need to actually build the confidence that they know what they're doing. So, you know, it is something to watch out for. You'll get away with, I think, a good mix. You know, sometimes when you can see that people are really struggling just to get started, you can sort of give them a little bit of a hand with a little bit of a leading question, but it should always kind of be followed up with a little bit more openness, or, you know, drawing out more information, just so that you can kind of have the confidence that they're not parroting back at you what you said.
Yeah. I was thinking as well, I really like how he has that open style. He hasn't got a clipboard in front of him or an iPad, and he's not just reading off questions. He clearly is looking around the space and trying to identify, you know, where could there be potential risks. It doesn't feel like he is just going through a tick box exercise. It is about having this conversation with a person. And it's kind of like, what did I see here? Let's look at this. And I think that's really great way to interact with people.
Yeah, and I think it's quite a natural thing, you know, as the conversation is moving, they're moving around different parts of the question. There's no regimented, I'm looking at this part and then I will move on to this part, and then, you know, it's a free flow style, which I think actually helps you know, the food business people to feel a little bit more comfortable, and the nerves to start to move out, and you get to see a bit more of a picture of how they're really going.
I do wonder if he was in a place where he was just getting those yes or no answers. It'd be interesting to see if he did actually change his style and ask different type of questions.
Yeah.
Do you do any chicken dishes or mince dishes at all?
We do mince, we do chicken, but I don't do the whole chicken. I just cut them in little pieces.
Yeah.
Every time I cook them.
It really brings it home to you how small space they're working in, and with all the kids kind of running around, and you think they're actually making food here, from salads through to chicken, and there's quite a variety of things going on. So he's kind of teasing that out.
Usually I just plug it there. This is the place where I cook. And mainly all the meat is being cooked here.
So you put it in with a sauce as well? Is
Yes.
So do you bring it up to the boil, or do you?
Yes, like from 9:30 is boiling until 11:45.
No problemo.
I make sure. Make sure that it's.
Yeah.
I can tell that he's going through a list of the highest risk things that she's doing, but it just feels like he's having a conversation. I thought the bit with the chicken was really good. He did actually ask one open question there, how do you do this? And she responded really well to that. So she started getting things out, showing how it was done. So you can actually see that open questions really make a difference, because he then started following up with a few more leading closed ones. But yeah, really getting to the heart of exactly how that chicken is made, and that it's eaten straight away, but in a really kind of friendly manner, and interacting well with her on that.
Yeah.
And the only problem with that is that if we didn't check what is in the label.
That's exactly right.
It is.
I was going to ask you that one.
Yeah.
To say, well, what do you think might be the problem if you order a different brand? Because I had a place in Nelson where it was a gluten-free place and made pizzas.
I really like his use of telling stories to kind of explain why. I mean, that would stay with me. To explain why the different brands could be really important, and actually, you know, there's a lot of the things he's checking here that could have really serious consequences if they went wrong.
Yeah.
Wheat products in it with gluten. So that's a perfect answer there. Well done, you.
We're at about 14 minutes now, and just watching it, I feel like that woman's been through a lot already. In 14 minutes, she's answered a lot of questions. And I can picture exactly how she goes and she gets the food and it coming to the door and out with the checks she's making. So and I think that's both his ability to get her to talk through that, but also she's very knowledgeable and he's really being able to draw a lot of that out of her. Because you can see a real picture of how these things are done, and he's very quick to pick up on anything where there could be a problem, and she's got really good understanding of why she should be doing the things that she needs to do. So it's making me feel very confident that she knows what she's doing with the kind of information he's already got from her.
To keep record on.
Oh yes, these are really good, aren't they?
I'm not sure whether they've both just stopped being so nervous about being filmed, but Bob's definitely got a lot more animated now. And the way he was asking that question with the scenario, I thought was a really good way of kind of making her think through it. And the look of real, genuine delight on his face. I mean, you can't fake that. And I talk about being genuinely inquisitive and genuinely connecting with the people that you're working with when you do your verifications.
What would be the first thing that you would ask?
To wash their hands.
Yes! Muy bien! Terrific!
And that is just the perfect example there of somebody who's really engaged and is really proud of her, actually, that she got the question right. And it was a good open question he used too.
Bonus.
I know. I was like, look, that's a beautiful moment.
But I think it also illustrates that, you know, regulators or people that are acting on behalf of regulators don't have to come across as inhuman robots.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all there to do a job, but I mean, like at the end of the day, the only reason that we're there is to get confidence that these people are making safe and suitable food. And you know, there's kids running around that are getting a good, healthy, nutritious meal, and you know, the parents can have confidence that, you know, if the kids get sick, it's unlikely to be the food, and that's all we're asking for. It's not about adding too many onerous extras into the kitchen. It's just about getting those basics right every time. And you know, I think this is a demonstration. I mean, like a lot of people, if they're looking at this video, they could apply it to their home business or their home kitchen, because it's a similar kind of a setup. It's a real kitchen, it's real concerns, but they're well managed, and people can have confidence that the food's safe, and that's all we're after, really.
Brilliant.
There's 3 places where noroviruses really take a hold. ECEs, old folks' homes, and cruise ships. Oh, and hospitals as well, because it's kind of like it's in a close confinement.
Yeah.
And kids are kind of like, you know, kids are like with their hands all over the place and stuff like that. So there's a lot of cross-contamination with kids.
Exactly.
So he was just talking about the kids getting their hands everywhere, and you could see him showing really good empathy there about what it's like in the environment that they're in, and the way she was responding by smiling and like really nodding, you could see that she was responding really well to that. Oh, you understand what it's like in here, and you know, you can tell it's chaos, but it doesn't mean it can't be safe food chaos.
Exactly. It's like if you know, you know, if you know your environment, and you know, you don't have to stop doing everything. You know, there's not only one way of doing things. It's like recognising where those risks can come from and taking steps to actually manage them. And you know, they've got those steps in place with the kids needing to wash their hands in a separate place before they come into the kitchen and those sorts of things. So they've recognised that you can't stop kids from putting their hands everywhere, but they've taken some steps to manage the impact of that on food safety. And I mean, like, yeah, there's not only one way.
All right, hey, that's really cool. That's been so, I think we've done about enough now in here, because it's, I'm really impressed. I really am. I think you're doing a great, it's yeah.
Thank you. If you want to have a look on the freezer, they would have.
Oh, we'll have a quick look in the, just have a quick look in the freezer.
I think it's hilarious that he goes, I'm finished now, and she's going, oh no, just come and have a look at the freezer. You know, it's kind of like, it's like, I've got more to show you. And that's fantastic, because it's like, you know, quite apart from illustrating that she's kind of got over her nerves, it's also illustrative of the fact that for a lot of businesses like this, once they do get over their nerves, they start to see that these audits or verifications have value for them, that they get as much out of them as what the verifier's getting, and that they can have confidence that the stories and examples that he's using are validating that she is on the right track and giving her confidence, and so she's now taking the opportunity to say, well, you haven't kind of looked at everything, come and give me that confidence over here. And yet we're still under half an hour from start to finish for this part of the verification. So we've covered an awful lot. She's feeling like she's getting value. We've got enough to know that this is a great operation, and he was like 2 thumbs up. That would be performing in my estimation of an outcome. So I think it's a good example of a well-performing business and how thorough a verification you can do in a short amount of time when the business is performing well.
And she clearly is taking real pride in what she does, and his positive affirmations are just making her beam, and it's just great to see that's going on.
Like these ones here, we're talking about your hand. So,
we have actually other paper towels.
Yeah.
I really like the way you can tell she knows what she's doing. He is going through the most important things, most important risks that he sees, and you can tell that she's answered that really well. So, I feel like you don't need to go through every single thing that's going on in that premises.
Yeah, and I think really at the end of the day, records, they can be an add-on to a topic, or they can be a separate topic in their own right. So I mean, like if you're going in the top 5s for food businesses, none of them is records.
Right, yeah.
They're all about the behaviours and the demonstration of competency. So, if one day a top 5 is a record.
Not when you're in charge.
Well, it might be for traceability. So actually in distribution and transport, then you might say that the traceability records are a top 5. So, but in an ECE, they're not. It's really about the behaviours. But there's ways to check records, and then there's ways to check records. I mean, like if you're just going to sit down and look at a piece of paper and see whether there's something in every column or every box or every, actually that's just writing on a piece of paper, and it doesn't really tell you a whole lot. It has to be taken in the context of how does the writing on the piece of paper get there? Is it timely? Is it because people have embedded that into the way that they do things? Do they see the value in doing that? And records really, I mean, like they have value for us, absolutely. Otherwise we wouldn't say that you have to keep them in certain situations. But mostly they're about the food business having that body of evidence that this isn't the only day that they're doing these cool things. Now, Bob can walk out of this business and he'll know that this isn't the only day they're doing. This is the stuff that they generally do every day. Because, if they didn't do it every day, she wouldn't be able to answer the questions.
So this is the disinfectant that we're actually using now.
Yeah.
That is approved also for being in contact with food.
This one, so he's been talking about, so she's noted that they've got a new cleaning chemical, and it appears, I mean it's not entirely clear, but it appears like they've been told previously that they can't use bleach or genola, sort of some of the common chemicals that a business of this size might normally use, and so they've gone out and found a commercial cleaning chemical, and they're probably paying a premium for it. I'd be a little bit disappointed if that advice had come from a regulator or a verifier. Bob is reassuring her that in fact the normal bleach or normal chemicals that you can get from the supermarket, a lot of them are absolutely suitable, and he's pointing out how you can find on the label the correct concentrations to use, and giving her information about if they want to use that chemical, the best and safest way to do that. So I think that's all entirely appropriate. I mean, at the end of the day, food safety isn't about adding cost unnecessarily. So so where there are common cleaning chemicals, he's giving really good advice to try and steer clear away from some of the perfumed type things, and keep it sort of as basic as you can. But yeah, bleach is a perfectly valid option.
Yeah, I think it really gets into the issue around advice as well. Yeah. He's giving her options, he's not telling her how to do it, but he's keeping it very outcomes based. So it's a really good example of where he's not telling her what to do, but he's saying, here's some options, you choose what works best for you. Yeah. There isn't one way for you to do this and meet the food safety outcome. Yeah.
So I mean, like if we were to do an exit meeting for Bob, we would also give him a pretty good thumbs up. I know, yeah. Couple of minor suggestions for improvement, but overall, he's an example of what we like to see in verifiers.
You could work on some of those jokes.
Yeah, well, there is that. But I mean, like his manner, he easily builds a rapport with people, and he can easily, connect, and he seems to have a wealth of stories, things that make sense to them and are relevant to what they're doing, and serve to illustrate as an education thing or a hint and tip what to look for. So reinforcing all the good behaviours along the way, but also giving people, something to think about, to refocus on food safety, to not get complacent or not to, not to start to think that they've got it all down pat and they don't need to think about it anymore.
Yeah, exactly. I've heard Bob say to me, "Oh, you've got to be friendly but not a friend," and I think he really gets that balance right of building a really good relationship in a way that the person respects them, but also can tell them the truth about what's going on. I like the way that he genuinely engages and seems to really care about what he's doing, and I don't think you can fake that. So that really comes across strongly, and I feel like by the end of this 30 minutes, I know so much about that place, and Bob's taught me new things today by listening to this video, so it's quite interesting.